Hi everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for staying here like until the very last presentation. So our presentation is going to be about how you can add beautiful charts to Jira and Confluence using Forge. And it's going to be a bit different from what we've seen so far. So thank you to the earlier presenters, like we've learned something new about some cool technologies that Atlassian is using to develop their products. What we are going to see right now is something that you can use right now. So you don't need to like think about how you can apply that. What we are going to see is something that you can actually use right away. And we'll be sharing later how you can do that and a few like tips and tricks. And so who was here for one of the earlier presentations about Forge? Anybody? Yes, thank you. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so we've been talking about Forge like a few times at these meetups already. So I was here like around 1 year ago talking about Forge for Bitbucket. So any Jira and Confluence users here? Okay, yeah, a few more hands raised. That's good. So I assume most of you don't know about Forge. This is what I usually get when I do this kind of presentations. So Forge is the Atlassian developer platform, and it enables you to really customize Jira, Confluence, and the other products in the way that can help you and your team to make the best out of the workflows that you have in your company. And it also enables some additional automation that you might want. So you might really improve your workflows using Jira and Confluence. But today we will be looking at something that is a bit more specific, and it's charts and amazing UI visualizations. So Han is going to do the live demo. So I'm going to hand over the microphone to her for the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Caterina, for that introduction. That was amazing. So yes, as Caterina was saying, my team is Forge UI, and we have been working on adding a series of new components into our UI kit library. And what's cool about this is that you guys as developers, you actually can create your own Forge app, and you can now use these chart components if you were ever to build this app. So I'd like to show you about what kind of charts are available that you guys can use. So starting off, we have our classic bar charts. So yeah, this one can come in either the vertical or the horizontal. And yeah, it's just good for when you want to display different categories and different values. Yes, and then the next kind of series that we've recently added is the stack bar charts, which is basically quite similar to our bar charts, except you can add a subcategory within the bar itself. So that's useful if you want to display it in kind of like a stack format. And then moving on to the rest of the kind of charts that we have, if you wanted to display like a trend over time, then we've got the line chart up here. And then our classic pie chart in case you needed to show like a pizza looking thing. And then finally, we've got our single value chart, which is a little bit unique, but basically it can show a value just as is. And optionally, you can also show a little indicator next to it to indicate percentage increase or decrease. So those are the different types of charts that you guys can now use if you made a Forge app. I'm now going to dive a little bit into the props that you guys can add into your component. So this is not an exhaustive list of props, but if you guys want it, you guys can visit developer.atlassian.com, which we'll link at the end of the presentation, and it'll show you guys all the different props you can use, plus also how to get started with using a Forge app. So this is just the common ones across all the charts that we've seen so far, which is the classic title, subtitle, whether or not it has a border, setting up width and height, and also data. And what's important to note about data is that our charts can currently take two different data formats. You can pass it in as an array of arrays or as an array of objects. And we'll see a little bit more about that in the demonstration. So I'll loop back to that. Okay, so now that we've seen all the different chart types and the props it can take, we're going to do a demonstration. Yay. Oh my God. So hello. All right. So I'm just going to show you guys the code behind the charts first. So we're going to exit this. Okay, we're going to show you this. So what I have up here is actually a Forge app, and it's right now displaying all the different chart types that we have. So you guys can make this yourself. Along the top, you guys can see this is our single value chart. And if I was to show you guys the code for this one, which is in here, and we're going to go single. This is the app code for our Forge app. Okay, this is very simple way to start bringing it into your app. You just need to import the component in, and you guys can see the props that we have, title and show border. But the interesting thing I wanted to show you guys here is the data, where right now it's an array with two numbers, the first one being the one that's displayed, and the second one is how the percentage increase or decrease is calculated relative to the first number. But it can also just be a single number, and it would just display as is. I'm going to start running the tunnel.
Oh, you had an extra character there, so I think we actually started. Ah, oh, it
Looks good. Well, we will find out if it will run very soon. So I'm going to just change it to just it being a number. And if I refresh this, it should show. Okay, so now it's just that number. So those are the different options for single value. So moving on, we have our pie chart here. So if we were to look at the code for our pie chart, again, very simple to start using it straight away. We can see our classic props that we were talking about before, but you'll notice that there's also these accessor props. There's color, label, and value accessor. And to understand those a little bit better, I'm going to show you what the data that we're passing into this component looks like. Okay, so here we have an array of objects. And before I was telling you guys that it can be an array of arrays or an array of objects. This time it's an array of objects that we're using. And this is important because you can see that it has three different key value pairs there with the key type, label, and value. And that's what we're passing to the accessors. So if we look back here, the accessors take a string indice, and that refers to the key in that object. So that is how the pie chart we're getting displays all the values and the labels that are coming up with it as well. So that's pie chart, though the accessors there are a bit of an anomaly because we're going to move into line chart now. And again, you'll start to see quite a pattern here. Line chart. We've got the same props, and if we were to look at the data for this one a bit more, instead of color, type, and label accessor, we've got X accessor, Y accessor, and color accessor. So bear with me, you guys. Again, if we have a look at the data for our line chart, it's also an array of objects. It's also got the key value pairs, date, value, and status. So the date there, it's actually what's going to be displayed on our x-axis. So that's what's going to go in x accessor. And then for value, that's our y-axis. And then our color accessor is our third key value pair there, which is status. And that separates the different categories into whether it's a new issue or a resolved issue. So if we go back here, we can see that's the way we assigned it in the string indice. And if we go back to the example app, you can see that's how the different data labels were plotted and whether or not it's green or blue. So that's basically line chart. So for the last two ones, oh, I'm going to have to get rid of that later. Okay. So for our horizontal bar chart, same deal. And if you can look into the props, we can see that instead of the accessors being string indices, this time they're numbers. And the reason for that is if we look at it, the data for that one, it is an array of arrays. So instead of it being key value pairs, it's just different positions on an array that the accessors are reading. So in this case, the x-axis is position 0, 0 on the array, and then the y-axis is position number 1. So you can do either. And that's what that is. And I want to note here that for our bar charts, the color accessor is not mandatory. It's an optional prop because it doesn't have to be multiple categories. But if we were to jump into the stack bar chart, which is our last kind that I'm going to show you. Okay, we can see that the accessors are number indices. And if you look at the data for this one, it needs to have the third kind of, what do we call it? The color accessor, because you need that to be able to show the different stacks within the chart. So without that, it won't be able to have those nice little colors. And that's this final chart here. Okay, so now with that all out of the way, I'm going to actually show you guys how easy it is to code and start using these charts in your UI kit for JAP. So give me a second. I'm just going to disconnect because I need to take out the code.
Yeah, we left in the example that we added earlier. So now we are going to take it out and save and pretend that this never happened.
Well,
yes.
Okay.
For that. And so we just did like, so we are showing the live updates of our app because the app is currently being tunneled from her laptop. So yeah. So
Okay.
Now that showed like the last chart.
Oh, okay. The last
Okay,
chart, that's
so these
the
are
bottom
the
of the
last charts.
page.
Yep,
So we're going
perfect.
to add. Thank you, Caterina. All right. So the first thing to do, this is my ForgeApp code here. If you guys were to use this, the first thing you do is import it from our Forge React library. So I'm going to be importing bar chart because that's the chart that I want to make. And just like that, you'll be able to start using it straight away in your code. So I've already prepared like a little stack here that we can add it to. So it's neat. Whoop. And I can just start using bar chart like that. So if you recall, the props that we can use is title. So I'm going to add just like a arbitrary title here. I'm going to give it a subtitle as well. And then what else? Borders. So I'm going to give it a border because it looks a lot nicer that way. Okay, so that's all the props done. But now we're going to need to give it some data. So I've actually already written up some data here. Oh my gosh. And I've opted to go with an array of objects. And you can see all the different key value pairs there. One for x-axis, y-axis, and the color accessor, because we've got different categories. So I'm going to import this into my file. At the top, next to all the other data that has been imported. And then we can chuck it straight away into our data prop. Like that, like this. Cool. And then the final thing that you guys would need are the different accessors. So our X accessor, our Y accessor, and our color accessor. Cool. And if we were to recall, X-axis is going to be for our X accessor, value for our Y, and status for our color. So I'm just going to add them all here as a string indice. Yep. Oh. Value and here. Okay, so that should be tunneling. So I'm going to refresh this and hopefully we have a bar chart appear at the bottom. Okay, this is our bar chart. And just like that, you guys can also use it. So yes, thank you. I'm going to hand back to Caterina now.
Yes. So thank you. So what we've seen is how to use, how to display some values from some hard-coded files that we had. But of course, like that was just for our demo. Like the reality is that you can connect to any external source, or you can even load some data from Jira. So if there is, a dashboard gadget that you want to load, you've been thinking about that, and you want to show that those information to your team, like you can do that by using a Forge app with the UI visualization options that we've seen. So something that my team is currently working on, and that's like a bit of like a fun thing, but you might have noticed some F1 branding around, it's very subtle. So actually there are some APIs for F1 with the results of the races, like the scheduling, like there is everything. Like don't ask me the details, but every team meeting that we have right now starts talking about F1. So my team is building UI visualizations in our team project by loading the F1 data. So it's not enough just to talk about that in every team meeting. We also need that in Jira. And of course, this is like a bit of like a funny story, but it's just to show you the flexibility that you have. You can really connect to any external source and think about some work system that you are integrating with, and you can load the data into Jira and show them as a chart. Yeah, so, and I think that's all what I wanted to add. If you want to try this out, you can check the QR code or the Go link there, and you will find all the information about the documentation, how to get a free site for testing this, because you probably don't want to try it in your company site the first time, but you can get a free developer site. And we also have like what we call a Forge Quest, which is a gamified tutorial that will take you through how to learn Forge all the way up to UI visualizations. And you'll also find our LinkedIn details if you want to connect with us. And I think that's it. Did I forget anything? No? Cool. So yeah, that's it.